Before going into the details of basic pump settings, let's first explain the difference between a conventional insulin pump and a patch pump like the Equil. Conventional insulin pumps deliver insulin through a thin tube connecting the reservoir to a cannula that is attached to the body. In the case of the patch pump, the cannula is incorporated into the pump base and is connected directly to the reservoir. With a small device like the Equil pump, the entire system is attached directly to the skin. For people who have not used the pump before, we can explain its basic concept to deal with it simply and effectively. The pump simulates the action of normal body insulin to control blood glucose. There are two types of injection. The first is the continuous insulin delivery rate, which is called the basal rate. It occurs in relatively small doses and changes throughout the day, depending on activity levels such as work, vacation, sleep, exercise, etc. Another type of injection is called a bolus. This is an additional injection with meals in relatively concentrated doses to control food digestion-related glucose levels. Bolus dosage is accurately calculated by taking into account the blood glucose level at the time of infusion along with the amount of carbohydrates in each meal. This is why we measure glucose at least 4 times a day or use continuous glucose monitoring devices, commonly known as CGM. Each Equil patch insulin pump comes with a portable diabetes assistant device, PDA. This device has several buttons and ports for operating and controlling the pump to be able to deal with it effectively. It is helpful to know it well. 1. The power button. In case the PDA is off, we press it continuously until the PDA vibrates. After 30 seconds, the home screen appears. And if the screen is on, hold it to lock the PDA. Generally, PDA screens turn off after a predefined period of inactivity. In such a case, we will see the lock screen. When the screen is off, we can either tap it to turn it on, bringing up the lock screen, or we can continuously press it to turn the device off. 2. Help button. This button provides information about the device's commands and functions. It's active on certain screens, such as the main screen, the base and bolus screens, and the log screen. 3. The back button. And this is its function. Takes us back to the previous screen, or closes dialog boxes after reading them and verifying that they are not needed. 4. The home button. This button will always return us to the home screen. 5. Up button. 6. Down changes selection, and their function is to help navigate between options without using the touchscreen. 7. The enter button. Its function is to select an action by pressing it without using the touchscreen. 8. Touchscreen. 9. The power charging port. Furthermore, it is used for data transfer to a personal computer or cloud service. 10. Headphone output. This is the port for the blood glucose meter integrated with the PDA. Use Exactive EQ strips to activate blood glucose test menu. 12. Strip ejector. Used to remove the glucose test strip after measurement has been completed, and this is located on the back of the device. 13. The external speaker. It can also be found at the back. If we are using the pump for the first time, our first step is to press and hold the power button on the PDA. The device will automatically take us to the setting wizard. This is where the pump's basic settings are set before use. The rest of the settings can be adjusted later. At this stage, we will see 5 screens for operating settings. The next button will take us to the next screen, and the previous button will return us to the previous screen. During this stage, none of the buttons on the PDA device will be active until we're done with the setting and click Quit. The first screen we see is the one where we set the time and date. When the dialog box pops up, we enter the exact date using the plus and minus buttons, then click OK. Similarly, we set the time. Select OK to save and exit. Then we set the hour format. It is automatically set to 24 hours, and we can choose 12 hours, which will allow us to choose morning or evening. Once that's done, click Next. The next page will appear, letting you adjust the basic basal rate parameters with 3 options. First is the maximum basal rate. Selecting it brings up a dialog box where we can set the maximum basal rate. It's helpful for putting a threshold on the basal rate injection if there's any error caused by insufficient pump knowledge. After that, we choose the base basal rate. Use the plus and minus buttons to select the appropriate value. The last option is a temporary basal rate, which can be disabled or displayed in units of insulin delivered per hour. Alternatively, you can use a percentage of the current basal rate. Usually, this screen shows all the options selected by the attending physician, and it's possible to skip it at the current stage and reset it at any time from the home screen. Settings. Insulin delivery settings. Proceed to the next screen. The third screen in the settings wizard. Here you will find the basic bolus settings, and this contains 3 options. First, the bolus increment setting allows us to set the intervals used when increasing or decreasing bolus amounts. The second option lets you set the maximum bolus value. Having a maximum dose limit will prevent human errors. Last is the extended bolus setting. It will open a dialog box, which can be disabled or expressed as insulin units or as a percentage of the total calculated bolus amount. This screen also shows doses set by the attending physician, which can be skipped and reset later. Click Next to enter the 4 settings wizard. This page displays advanced bolus settings where you can adjust 2 main pump features. The first is the quick bolus function, which allows the user to administer a bolus using only one button located on the pump. This feature is turned off by default. If you choose it, you can set the quick bolus increment, which is how much insulin will be injected every time you press the button. Selecting Yes will automatically turn it on. Bolus calculator. You can use this feature to determine the size of a bolus based on blood glucose levels, carbohydrate consumption, and other parameters. With the assistance of your physician, enter these parameters here once. This feature is switched off by default. In general, Microtech Medical recommends not activating or interacting with these features unless you have received sufficient training on the use of the pump from an authorized trainer. After that, we click on the next button and enter the last screen of the pump's basic settings. Here we specify how many insulin units remain in the insulin reservoir in order to receive an alarm when the reservoir is about to run out. This is done via an option called the low reservoir threshold. Also, from the same screen, we can set the full automatic shutdown of the pump, and this is an option that will not be activated by default. In this case, we can choose to activate it and adjust the number of hours the pump has been operating without any human interaction, such as entering data or pressing buttons. After it passes, the pump will stop delivering insulin and shut down completely. A 15-minute alarm will begin before the auto-off time expires and will continue until we acknowledge it. This is to let us know that insulin delivery has stopped. In this case, we have to refill the reservoir in order for the pump to work again. Click Finish. Once you have completed the settings wizard, you will be able to use all the basic functions of the pump. If we wish to modify anything in it afterward, from the home screen, select Settings, Settings Wizard. The pump is now ready for use. The information contained in this video is for the purpose of demonstrating the functionality of the PDA. As a part of the Equil insulin pump training system, emphasis is placed on the fact that installation is only carried out by parties approved by Microtech Medical and after consulting with the healthcare provider and under his supervision throughout the training period. Diabetes Cloud. Live with freedom.